Rain hammered the slate roof like fists on a coffin lid. London, 1852, midnight. The old Vale house on the edge of Islington stood dark and crooked windows blind with grime. No lamps burned downstairs. No one waited up. Just the wind clawing at the shutters and the steady drip-drip from a leak in the ceiling that had never been fixed. Elowen Vale pressed her back against the attic door, heart slamming so hard she tasted copper. Her fingers, cold, trembling, curled around the iron key she'd stolen from her mother's jewelry box 3 days ago. The key that still smelled faintly of lavender and regret. She shouldn't be here. She knew that. But ghosts don't sleep, and neither had she. Not since the letter arrived last week. Not since she'd read the single line in her father's old ledger book tucked inside the envelope, like a confession too late to matter. They took everything. Forgive me, my girl. 10 years ago, Elias Vale had walked into the Thames with stones in his pockets. 10 years ago, the newspapers called him thief. 10 years ago, the bailiffs took the furniture, the silver, the name. 10 years ago, Elowen 16, and still believing the world could be kind, watched her mother Maris, aged 20 years, in one afternoon. And now this. She turned the key. The lock gave with a soft, reluctant click. The attic smelled of mildew and forgotten summers. Moonlight sliced through a cracked skylight, painting silver bars across trunks and broken chairs. Dust motes drifted like slow snow. Elowen moved forward on stockinged feet, candle stub cupped in one hand, flame trembling so violently it threw wild shadows on the rafters. She knew exactly where to look. Her father had shown her once when she was small, and he still laughed easily behind the third beam from the chimney under a loose floorboard painted to match the rest. She knelt, set the candle down. Nails scraped wood. The board lifted with a groan. There it was. A small leather-bound ledger, edges frayed, spine cracked. Not the official bank book. Not the one the inspectors had seized. This one was thinner. Secret. Hidden. Her breath caught. She opened it. The handwriting, her father's careful copper plate, leaped off the page like a shout in the dark. 13th of April, 1842. Transfer approved. £4,200 to private account number 47-19. Signed G. Holt. Noted. No receipt issued. Elias Vale instructed to record as charitable disbursement. Page after page. Dates. Amounts. Names of families, cotton spinners, dock workers, widows with small savings, who had trusted the Draven Bank's Widows and Orphans Relief Fund. Money that never reached them. Money that flowed instead into private pockets. And at the bottom of every entry in Elias's hand, the same 4 words, under protest, under duress. Elowen's vision blurred. Not from dust. From rage so old and deep it felt like another heartbeat inside her chest. If this book reached the right hands, not just her father's name could be cleared. Hundreds, maybe thousands of lives could be mended. Children who never got the schooling their mothers had sacrificed for. Widows who'd sold wedding rings to buy bread. Men broken by debt who'd never seen justice. She closed the ledger, pressed it to her chest like a shield. If this falls into the wrong hands, she whispered to the dark, they'll burn it. Or worse, they'll burn me. Footsteps. Heavy, deliberate. On the stairs below. Elowen froze. The attic door swung open. A tall figure filled the frame, broad shoulders, black greatcoat, dripping rain face half-shadowed. Only the eyes caught the candlelight pale gray, sharp as winter steel. Thorne Draven, the new master of Draven Bank. The man who had refused to extend her father one more month of grace. The man whose signature now sat on every loan her mother still struggled to pay. He stepped inside without invitation. Miss Vale. His voice was low-controlled, the kind of voice that expected obedience. Elowen stood slowly, ledger still clutched against her ribs. Her pulse roared in her ears. "You're trespassing," she said. The words came out steadier than she felt. "And you're stealing?" He glanced at the open floorboard, the candle, the book in her arms. "I came for what's mine," she answered. "Everything in this house belongs to the creditors now, including whatever you think you found." He took one step closer. Elowen took one step back. "I know what this is," Thorne said quietly. "I've seen the rumors. A hidden ledger, a dead man's last lie. You think it will save your father's name? It will only drag yours through the mud beside his." Her throat tightened. "You think I care about my name?" she whispered. "My father is dead. My mother wakes screaming some nights. My brother studies medicine by candlelight because we can't afford gas. And you sit in your marble office and pretend none of it happened?" Thorne's jaw flexed. Just once. A flicker of something regret anger. She couldn't tell. "I didn't cause your father's choices," he said. "No. But you signed the papers that buried him." Silence stretched between them, taut as a bowstring. Then Thorne extended his hand. "Give me the book, Elowen." She stared at his palm, long fingers scarred across the knuckles from some old fight she'd never asked about. "No." He exhaled through his nose, a sound almost like defeat. "Then you leave me no choice." He moved faster than she expected, long strides closing the distance. Elowen spun, candle-tipping flame guttering. She bolted for the narrow servant's stair at the far end of the attic. "Stop," his voice cracked like thunder. She didn't. Down the twisting stair, heart in her throat ledger, shoved inside her bodice. Rain lashed her face as she burst through the kitchen door into the yard. Mud sucked at her boots. She ran blind, breathless toward the alley gate. Behind her, Thorne's boots pounded the cobbles. She reached the gate, fumbled the latch, slipped through, and kept running. Into the night. Into the rain. With the truth burning against her skin like a brand. She didn't look back, but she knew he would come for her again. And next time he might not ask politely. This story will show you that sometimes the heaviest burdens are carried in silence, and that the courage to speak them aloud can heal not just one broken heart, but an entire chain of forgotten lives. Stay with me. The truth is only beginning to surface. The fog clung to Whitechapel like a shroud that refused to lift. 3 nights after the attic escape, Elowen slipped through the narrow alley behind the tannery hood, pulled low, the ledger a hard weight against her ribs beneath her threadbare cloak. Every step echoed her father's voice, in her head, soft, careful, the way he used to read her bedtime stories before the world turned cruel. She hadn't slept. Not really. Just shallow dozes haunted by Thorne Draven's gray eyes and the sound of his boots on wet stone. Clara Beaumont's door was the 4th one down paint, peeling like old skin. Elowen knocked twice, short sharp the signal they'd used since girlhood. The door cracked open. Clara's face appeared thinner than Elowen remembered, lines carved deeper around her mouth. Widow's black still clung to her, though the husband had been gone 4 years. "Ellie." Clara's voice was a rasp. "You look like death warmed over." "I feel worse." Clara pulled her inside without another word. The room was small, one window boarded halfway up. A single candle burned on a crate that served as table. Clara's daughter, little May 6, now slept curled on a pallet in the corner, thumb in mouth. Clara shut the door, bolted it. "Sit," she said, "before you fall." Elowen sank onto the stool, pulled the ledger from her bodice, set it between them like an offering. Clara stared at it, then at Elowen. "Is that father's? The real one?" Clara's hand trembled as she opened it. Pages turned slowly. Her breath caught on every line. "God in heaven," she whispered after the 5th page. "This isn't just Elias. Look here, Mary Tanner's widow fund. £20, gone, and the Cooper's 40. They lost the bakery because of it. Elowen leaned forward. Clara, you worked in the records room at Draven's for 2 years. You saw things. Clara closed the book. Her eyes were wet, but not with tears. With something harder. I saw Gideon Holt burn receipts. I saw him laugh when a woman begged for her savings back. And I saw old Mr. Draven Thorne's father sign off on every disbursement without asking questions. He knew. He had to know. Elowen's stomach twisted. Then why? Because silence buys peace. And peace buys power. Clara reached across the crate, squeezed Elowen's cold fingers. You can't take this to the papers yet. They'll twist it. Call you hysterical? Or worse, say you forged it to revenge your father. I know. But you can't do it alone. Elowen looked at May's sleeping form, at the patched blanket, at the empty coal scuttle. I don't have anyone else. You have me, Clara said quietly. And maybe someone else. Elowen's head snapped up. No. Hear me out. Thorne Draven came to the soup kitchen yesterday, asking questions, quiet ones, about Elias Vale, about the old fund. Elowen's pulse spiked. He's hunting me. Or he's hunting the truth. The knock came then 3 measured raps. Both women froze. Clara rose, moved to the door like a shadow. Who is it? A pause. Draven. Clara glanced back at Elowen, a question in her eyes. Elowen nodded once. Tight. Terrified. Clara opened the door. Thorne stood in the fog coat collar, turned-up hat shadowing his face. Rain glistened on his shoulders like glass. He didn't step inside. Just looked past Clara to Elowen. Miss Vale? She rose, legs unsteady. You followed me. I didn't have to. You leave footprints, even in fog. Silence. Then Thorne spoke softer than she'd ever heard him. I read the coroner's report on your father. Last night. In the archive. The one no one's supposed to see. Elowen's throat closed. And he didn't drown himself because he was guilty. He drowned himself because he couldn't live with what he knew. Elowen's vision blurred. Thorne took 1 step across the threshold. I want to see the ledger. No, I'm not here to take it. I'm here to help you keep it safe. Clara crossed her arms. Why should we trust you? Because my father's signature is on half those pages. And every time I look at them, I see my mother's grave. She died believing he was an honorable man. I can't let that lie stand any longer. Elowen searched his face, the scar on his knuckles, the faint tremor in his jaw. She lifted the ledger, held it out, but not all the way. If you betray me, I won't. Yeah, she let him take it. His fingers brushed hers, just for a second, warm against her cold skin. He opened it. Red. Face unreadable at first. Then something cracked. A muscle in his cheek. A slow exhale. I knew pieces, he said. Suspected more. But seeing it, all of it. He closed the book, handed it back. I have the bank's duplicate ledgers, sealed since my father's death. If we match them to this, we can prove Holt's theft, Elowen finished. And more. Clara spoke then. There's a new group. Dock workers. They've been putting savings into the reformed fund. Holt's still running it. Quietly. Thorne's eyes darkened. How many 40 families? Maybe more. They meet tomorrow night at the old mill on the river. Elowen felt the air leave her lungs. If he collects again, he won't, Thorne said. Elowen looked at him. Really looked. The arrogance was gone. In its place, something raw. Something that mirrored the ache in her own chest. I don't trust you, she said. I know, but I need you. He nodded once. Then we do this together. Quietly. Until we have enough to bury him. Clara glanced between them. Tomorrow night, then. Elowen swallowed. Tomorrow night. Thorne turned to leave. Paused at the door. Elowen. She looked up. Don't run from me again. She didn't answer, But as the door closed behind him, she felt the first crack in the wall she'd built around her heart. Not trust, not yet, but something dangerously close. The river smelled of coal smoke and despair. 4 days after the fog-shrouded promise in Clara's cramped room, Elowen stepped through the iron gates of St. Agnes Charity Hospital just as the evening lamps were being lit. The building loomed gray and weary windows, glowing faintly like dying coals. She wore the plainest dress she owned, faded gray wool sleeves, frayed at the cuffs, and carried nothing but a small basket of bread wrapped in cloth. No one looked twice at a woman bringing food to the sick. Rowan met her in the narrow corridor outside the men's ward. He was taller than she remembered, shoulders broader under the doctor's coat, but his eyes were the same, dark, watchful, carrying too much for 23 years. Ellie. He pulled her into a quick embrace, then stepped back. "You're shaking." "I'm fine." "You're not." He led her past rows of narrow beds. Men coughed wetly into rags. Women sat beside husbands, faces hollow. The air was thick with carbolic and unwashed bodies. In a small side room lit by one oil lamp, 3 men waited. Dock workers, all of them. Skin sallow, hands calloused and trembling. Rowan had examined them earlier that day. "These are the ones from the new fund," Rowan said quietly. "They've been putting in every spare penny for months. Now they can't work. Lungs full of river damp, no medicine, no rest." Elowen knelt beside the oldest Mr. Finch gray beard, streaked with soot. She offered bread. He took it with shaking fingers. "God bless you, miss." She swallowed hard. "Did Gideon Holt promise you the money would help your families?" Finch nodded. "Said it was safe? Said it was for the children's schooling?" "My girl's 14. Wants to be a seamstress. I told her, wait a bit longer." Elowen's throat burned. Rowan crouched beside another man, younger, coughing blood into a tin cup. "This one's wife died last winter," Rowan murmured. "Left 3 boys. They sold the tools to keep paying into the fund. Thought it was insurance." Elowen closed her eyes for a second. The ledger's pages flashed behind her lids, dates, amounts, names crossed out like they'd never existed. Rowan pulled her aside. "There's more," he said. "One of the old victims, Mrs. Harrow, came in last month. She told me she testified against father back then. Said she saw him take the money herself." Elowen's heart stuttered. "But she lied. Someone paid her too. £50. Enough to bury her husband and feed the children for a year. She cried when she told me. Said she'd do anything to take it back." Elowen pressed a hand to her mouth. Rowan touched her shoulder. "We can still fix this, Ellie, but we need proof. Real proof. Not just the ledger." She nodded, couldn't speak. That night, back in the tiny room she shared with Maris above a tailor's shop, a letter waited under the door. No envelope, just folded paper sealed with a plain red wafer. She broke it open with trembling fingers. One line inked in careful block letters. "Stop digging, Miss Vale, or your brother won't see another sunrise." Her knees buckled. She sank to the floor, letter crumpling in her fist. The next morning she met Thorne on the embankment far from prying eyes. Mist rolled off the Thames like smoke. He arrived in a plain coat, no crest on the carriage, no footman. He saw her face and went still. "What happened?" She thrust the letter at him. He read it. Once. Twice. His jaw tightened until a muscle jumped. "I'll move Rowan to Blackwood House tonight," he said. "He'll be safe there." "No. Elowen, I won't put him in your debt. Or mine." Thorne stepped closer. The wind tugged at his coat. "You think I want gratitude? I want him alive." She looked away. Toward the river. Toward the place her father had walked in. "I can't keep owing people," she whispered. "Not you. Not anyone." Thorne was silent for a long beat. Then he spoke so low, she almost missed it. "My mother, my stepmother Isolde, she was forced into the marriage. My father needed her money. Needed her name. She was 19. She begged him to let her go. He laughed. Elowen turned slowly. She tried to leave once. He locked her in her room for a month. Said it was for her own good. When she finally stopped fighting, she stopped eating, stopped speaking. One winter morning, she walked to the lake behind the house and didn't come back. His voice cracked just once. I was 12. I heard the servants whispering. I ran to the water. Too late. She was already gone. Elowen felt the words land like stones in her chest. I didn't protect her, he said. I was too afraid of him. Too afraid of losing the only home I knew. And every day since I've carried that. He met her eyes. I won't let another person die because of my family's silence. Not Rowan. Not you. Tears stung Elowen's eyes. She blinked them back. You're not him, she said softly. I've spent years trying to prove that to myself. She reached out, hesitant, touched the sleeve of his coat. Then prove it to me. He covered her hand with his. Warm, steady. We go to the shareholders' meeting next week, he said. We present the evidence. Together. She nodded. But that night, alone in her narrow bed, she wept quiet, choking sobs into the pillow. Fear for Rowan clawed at her throat. Fear that the truth would cost more than she could pay. Across the city, in the dark study at Blackwood House, Thorne sat with an open letter of his own, the coroner's report on Elias Vale. He traced the words with one finger. I don't want to become the man my father was. He whispered to the empty room. The candle guttered, and in the silence that followed, a decision hardened. Next week they would face Gideon Holt, but Holt, it turned out, had been waiting. The marble hall of Draven Bank smelled of polished oak and old money. Mid-morning light poured through the tall arched windows, catching dust motes in slow golden spirals above the long mahogany table. 30 shareholders sat in high-backed chairs, bankers in pinstripes, widows in black bombazine, a few mill owners with calloused hands hidden beneath gloves. The air was thick with murmurs, the rustle of papers, the faint creak of leather. Thorne stood at the head of the room behind the carved podium. His coat was immaculate, his posture rigid, but his fingers, hidden from view, curled tight around the edge of the wood. He had rehearsed the words 100 times in the dark hours before dawn. Today, the Reformed Charity Fund would be announced. Today, the past would begin to loosen its grip. He cleared his throat. Ladies and gentlemen. The double doors at the far end swung open. Elowen stepped through. She wore the same gray wool dress from the hospital corridor, but her chin was high, her auburn hair pinned simply yet fiercely. Rowan walked beside her tall, steady doctor's bag in hand. Behind them came 5 men and women from the dockside wards, pale, coughing quietly, but eyes clear with purpose. Every head turned. Thorne's breath caught. He hadn't known she would come like this. Open. Unhidden. Gideon Holt rose from his seat near the front. Tall, silver-haired smile smooth as oil. Miss Vale, he said pleasantly. This is a private meeting. Not anymore, Elowen answered. She walked forward. The room parted like water. Rowan stayed close, protective shadow at her side. Thorne met her gaze across the length of the table. Something unspoken passed between them. Fear resolved a fragile thread of trust. Holt's smile tightened. Security. No need. Thorne cut in. His voice carried. Calm. Final. Let them speak. Holt's eyes narrowed. He reached into his breast pocket, drew out a single folded sheet. Yellowed edges curled. I believe this will explain everything. He unfolded it with deliberate care. Held it high. A confession. Signed by Elias Vale himself. Admitting embezzlement from the widow's fund. Dated the day before his unfortunate departure. Gasps rippled through the room. And furthermore, Holt continued, voice rising evidence of collusion. Miss Vale and His Grace here have been seen together repeatedly. Late nights. Secret meetings. One might conclude they intend to use this fabricated ledger to seize control of the bank for themselves. He turned to the shareholders. I move that Thorne Draven be removed as chairman immediately, and that Miss Vale be charged with theft of bank property. Murmurs swelled into outrage. Thorne's hands clenched white-knuckled on the podium. Elowen felt the room tilt, but she did not falter. She stepped forward, placed the true ledger on the table with a soft thud that silenced every whisper. This, she said, voice trembling at first, then steadying, is not my father's confession. She opened it. Pages fell open to the marked entries. April 13th, 1842, £4,200, transferred to account 4719. Recipient G. Holt. No charitable disbursement recorded. She turned the page. July 9th, 3,800 to the same account. Recipient G. Holt. Name after name, date after date. Her voice grew stronger with each line. These are not donations. These are thefts. From people who trusted this bank. From widows who sold their wedding bands. From fathers who worked double shifts so their daughters could learn to read. She looked straight at Holt. You kept the money. You forged receipts. And when my father tried to stop you, you let him take the blame. Holt laughed short sharp. Preposterous. That ledger could have been forged yesterday. The doors opened again. Clara Beaumont entered, flanked by 8 women, some in patched shawls, some clutching children's hands. Their faces were worn, but their eyes burned. Clara stepped forward first. My husband died in the river works, she said quietly. Left me £30 in the fund. I never saw a penny. I sold my mother's brooch to feed our girl. Another woman spoke. Voice cracked. My boy was meant to apprentice as a printer. We paid in every week. Then the letters stopped. We lost the flat. Lost everything. One by one they spoke. Quiet stories. Devastating stories. The room went still. Thorne stepped around the podium, walked to Elowen's side, not touching, but close enough that she felt his warmth. He addressed the shareholders. My father knew, he said. The words came out rough. He signed the approvals. He looked away. And I inherited the silence. He looked at Elowen, really looked. I've carried that shame long enough. He turned to the room. Today I choose the truth. The fund will be repaid. Every shilling. And the man responsible will answer for it. Holt surged to his feet. This is slander. 2 uniformed policemen stepped from the alcove near the doors. Rowan's quiet arrangement. Holt paled. You can't? The senior officer moved forward. Mr. Gideon Holt, you are under arrest for fraud and embezzlement. Holt lunged for the forged paper on the table. Rowan caught his wrist. Gentle. Firm. It's over. Holt was led away, struggling, shouting. The room erupted not in chaos, but in something else. A low murmur, then scattered applause, then more, from the small shareholders, from the widows, from the men who'd lost years of savings. Thorne turned to Elowen. His eyes were bright. Raw. I resign as chairman, he said, voice carrying. Effective immediately. Until the bank is clean. He looked only at her. Thank you. She felt it then, the shift inside her chest. Not gratitude, not obligation. Something deeper. Warmer. Terrifying in its clarity. She reached out slowly, touched his hand. Just once. The applause swelled around them, but in that moment the only sound she heard was her own heartbeat. And his? 6 months had passed like a slow thaw after a long winter. The old Vale house on the edge of Islington no longer leaned under its own weight. Fresh paint gleamed on the shutters. The roof no longer leaked. The garden, once choked with weeds, now bloomed with early roses and lavender, their scent drifting through open windows on warm spring air. Elowen stood at the parlor window, watching sunlight spill across the floorboards she used to scrub on her knees. The house felt different now. Not grand, not borrowed. Hers. She turned at the sound of boots on the front step. Thorne. He carried no hat today, no greatcoat, just a simple dark waistcoat and white shirt sleeves rolled to the elbows. In his hands, a slim leather-bound book, edges still crisp. He stepped inside without knocking. The door had been left ajar for him. Elowen. His voice was quiet, almost careful. Almost. She smiled, small, tentative. You're early. I couldn't wait. He crossed the room, stopped a few feet away. The space between them felt charged, fragile. The bank's restructuring is finished, he said. The independent board is seated. Rowan and Clara both sit on it. Every claimant has been repaid with interest. The new fund is active, for women, for children, for anyone the old system forgot. She nodded. She knew. She had signed the final ledgers herself. Thorne held out the book. This is for you. She took it. Opened it slowly. Not the old ledger of theft and shame. A new one. Clean pages, neat columns. Investments planned for the next decade. Schools for girls, apprenticeships, small loans for widows starting over. On the first page, in Thorne's precise hand, the Aurora Fund co-founder Elowen Vale. She looked up, eyes shining. Aurora. For the dawn, he said softly. For the light that comes after the longest night. Her throat tightened. You didn't have to. I wanted to. He stepped closer. I used to think the truth would destroy me, that if I admitted what my father did, what I let continue, I'd be left with nothing. No name, no legacy, no right to stand in any room. He reached out, touched her cheek with the back of his knuckles, gentle, reverent. But you taught me something different. You taught me the truth doesn't break us, it saves us. It saves the people we failed. And it saves me. Elowen felt the words settle deep in her chest, warm and heavy. She set the ledger aside, looked up at him. And you taught me courage isn't the absence of fear. It's choosing to act even when your hands shake, even when the cost might be everything. Her voice wavered. I was so afraid. Of trusting you, of needing you, of believing this could be real. Thorne's hand slid to the nape of her neck, thumb brushing the soft skin there. Is it real now? She searched his face, the scar on his knuckles, the faint lines at his eyes, the quiet hope he no longer tried to hide. Yes. He exhaled a sound almost like relief and lowered his mouth to hers. The kiss was slow, tender, full of everything they hadn't said. Rain-soaked nights, whispered confessions, the weight of ledgers and lost years. She rose on her toes, arms sliding around his neck. His hands settled at her waist, steady, possessive yet careful, as if she might vanish if he held too tight. When they parted foreheads resting together, she whispered, I'm not alone anymore. You never were, he answered. I was just too blind to see it. They stayed like that a long time, wrapped in sunlight, and the scent of roses until the garden clock chimed noon. 5 years slipped by, the way good years do, quietly, steadily full of ordinary miracles. The little church on the edge of the Vale property was plain stone and stained glass. No grand procession, no society pages, just Rowan in his best coat standing proud as best man. Clara beside him, flowers in her hair, smiling through tears. Maris in the front pew, hands clasped tight, whispering thanks to a God she hadn't spoken to in years. Elowen walked down the aisle alone. Simple white muslin, a sprig of lavender tucked behind her ear, no veil to hide her face. Thorne waited at the altar, eyes never leaving hers. When she reached him, he took her hand-scarred knuckles against soft palms, and the vicar began. They spoke their vows in voices that trembled only once. And when the words were done, he kissed her again, slow, deep, certain. Outside, under the old oak, their daughter Aurora waited in Clara's arms. 2 years old, dark curls, bright gray eyes. She reached chubby hands toward her parents and laughed, a sound like bells. That evening, in the garden of the house that had once held only shadows, Elowen sat on the bench beneath the roses. Thorne beside her, Aurora asleep against his chest. Elowen opened the Aurora Fund ledger, one she now kept in the parlor, not hidden. She dipped the pen, wrote carefully on a fresh page, "The past does not define us. The light we create is our true legacy." She closed the book, set it aside. Thorne pressed a kiss to her temple. No regrets. She leaned into him, felt the steady beat of his heart. None? He smiled, rare, real unguarded. Good. They sat in silence as the sun dipped lower. Roses glowed gold, lavender swayed. Somewhere in the distance, a child's laughter drifted on the breeze. And for the first time in years, the house felt full, not of ghosts, but of tomorrow. This story will leave you believing that justice isn't always a thunderclap. It can be the quiet rebuilding of broken things, the slow mending of hearts, and the courage to choose love over silence. Thank you for staying until the end. May the light you carry forward be brighter than the shadows you leave behind. Finally, let me send my deep thanks to you. Thank you for listening and for allowing this story to speak to your heart. The Wild West still holds countless truths, some painful, some tender, all worth remembering. Stay with us, subscribe, comment, and invite others to discover these untamed stories. From our hearts to yours. Thank you for being part of this journey. Aviso legal, barra, disclaimer. Each story shared here is produced for storytelling enjoyment. Certain scenes may include fictional or dramatized elements inspired by historical circumstances. Although AI tools assist us in visuals, narration, and script development, the emotional tone, editing, and quality control are conducted by people to ensure meaningful experiences. We fully uphold YouTube's policies, using no deceptive recreations or impersonations of real individuals. All creative resources are properly licensed. Unauthorized copying, re-uploading, or remixing is not permitted. Thank you for supporting the effort behind every episode we create.